On the planet Zalara, far away from Earth, lived an alien named Vrakas. Vrakas wasn't like the other Zelarans. His people were known for being tall, strong, and fierce, and their society valued power above all else. But Vrakas was different. He was quiet, thoughtful, and had always dreamed of finding someone to share his life with. Sadly, his differences made it hard for him to connect with others. Most of his fellow Zalarans didn't understand him, and he often felt alone. Vrakas spent many years trying to find a companion. He explored different planets, met new species, and tried to join in with the social life on Zalara, but no one seemed to match him. His ideal partner, he thought, would be gentle, kind, and someone who could understand him without judgment. He had heard stories of Earth's people, humans, who seemed to be just what he was looking for. From what he gathered, humans were diverse and had many different kinds of people. He thought there was a good chance that he could find someone who shared his hopes and dreams. One day, Vrakas heard about a new service offering, mail order brides from Earth. The idea seemed simple enough. You pick a partner from a catalog, and they're sent to your world. The photos in the catalog showed women from Earth, mostly small, gentle, and beautiful, just the kind of companion Vrakas had imagined. He didn't know much about Earth's people, but after reading through the catalog, he felt hopeful. He chose a woman who seemed quiet and kind, imagining that she would fit perfectly into his life. A few weeks later, the long-awaited day arrived. Vrakas stood at the station, his heart racing with excitement. The train would be arriving soon, carrying his new companion. He had prepared his home, carefully decorating it with flowers from his planet, cooking special foods that he had spent days learning to make. Everything was ready for the woman who would change his life. As the train finally came into view, Vrakas' excitement grew. He couldn't wait to see her face, to greet her with open arms and show her his peaceful world. He waited for the door to open, his eyes fixed on the ramp as it lowered. The moment was here, but what came out was not what he expected at all. A towering figure stepped off the train. It was a woman, but she was not small or delicate. She was massive, easily more than 12 feet tall. Her fiery red hair shone in the sunlight, and her strong, athletic body moved with the confidence of someone who knew their strength. Vrakas blinked in surprise. This was not at all what he had imagined. The woman looked down at him with a slight frown, clearly as surprised by him as he was by her. She introduced herself as Amelia, a human from Earth. Vrakas could hardly believe his ears. She was not the quiet, delicate woman he had hoped for. She was a giant, clearly built for strength and endurance. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Amelia asked, looking around. "I was supposed to be working with explorers, not—" This Vrakas felt his face flush with embarrassment. He stammered, trying to explain that she was supposed to be his bride, but he realized the mistake too late. There had been a mix-up in the mail order system, and Amelia was not meant to be his bride. She was, in fact, supposed to be a bodyguard for another group of travelers. "Looks like there's been a mistake," Amelia said with a nervous laugh. "I wasn't expecting this either. I'm sorry." Vrakas didn't know what to say. His heart sank, and he felt embarrassed. He had imagined so much about this moment, and now it seemed like it was all falling apart. He had waited for years for this opportunity, and now it felt like his dream was slipping away. Amelia looked down at him, sensing his disappointment. "You don't need to worry," she said kindly. "I'll help you out however I can." Vrakas wasn't sure what to make of the situation. He had no idea how to feel, but something about Amelia's presence calmed him. Despite her intimidating size, she had a gentle tone, and her kindness was obvious. She didn't seem angry or upset about the mix-up. In fact, she seemed almost relieved to be here, even though it wasn't what she had expected. "Well," Amelia said with a smile, "since I'm here, how about I give you a hand? I can help with anything you need, whether it's finding a way to fix the situation or just getting to know each other better. I've heard Earth and Zalara are very different, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from each other." Vrakas was still unsure what to do, but he felt a little better knowing that Amelia wasn't angry. She could have been upset, but she wasn't. In fact, she seemed more amused by the whole situation than anything else. "Perhaps we could start with getting you settled in," Vrakas suggested. I can show you my home. Maybe we can figure out what to do from there." Amelia nodded eagerly, and together they made their way to Vrakaz's home. As they walked, Vrakaz tried to ignore the odd feeling in his chest. There was something about Amelia that intrigued him. Her size was overwhelming, but her warmth was undeniable. She was unlike anyone he had ever met before. As they entered Vrakaz's home, Amelia ducked under the doorframe, causing a bit of a commotion as she adjusted herself to fit inside. Vrakaz's house had been designed for someone of his size, small by human standards, and it became clear that Amelia wouldn't be comfortable here. "I'm not sure if this house was built for someone like me," she said with a laugh. "But I'm sure we can make it work." Vrakaz smiled awkwardly. "I'll try to make adjustments. It might take some time, but I'll manage." Over the next few days, Amelia made herself at home. She wasn't upset about the situation at all. Instead, she began to help Vrakaz with everything from rearranging the furniture to teaching him about Earth's cultures. They spent their days getting to know each other better, and slowly, Vrakaz began to feel a connection with her. Despite their differences, they started to understand each other. Amelia's strength was not just physical. She had a strong spirit and a heart full of kindness. Vrakaz found himself enjoying their conversations. Even though they sometimes had trouble understanding each other's worlds, but Amelia never judged him, and she never tried to push him to change. One day, Vrakaz asked her about her life on Earth. "It must have been difficult," he said, looking up at her. Being so different from the others, Amelia's face softened. "It was. I was always taller and stronger than most people on Earth, and that made me feel out of place. I never quite fit in, no matter where I went. But I've learned to accept who I am. I've also learned that, sometimes, it's the differences that make us special." Vrakaz thought about her words for a long time. He had spent so much time trying to fit into a world that didn't seem to want him. But maybe Amelia was right. Maybe it wasn't about fitting in it. It was about finding someone who understood and accepted you for who you truly were. And in that moment, Vrakaz realized that despite the mix-up that had brought Amelia here, he might just have found the person he had been looking for all along. As the days passed, Vrakaz and Amelia adjusted to their unusual living situation. Vrakaz had never expected to find someone like Amelia, and certainly not under these circumstances. He had imagined a quiet, gentle companion, a perfect match for his peaceful life. Instead, he had received a giant woman who towered over him both in size and strength. Yet strangely enough, it was her strength that fascinated him most. Amelia wasn't just physically strong. She had an inner strength that made her seem invincible. She never let anything bother her, even the most awkward moments. When she first entered his home, she had nearly knocked over several pieces of delicate furniture, causing a bit of chaos. But instead of being embarrassed, she had laughed and apologized, making the situation seem lighthearted. Vrakaz found himself warming to her in ways he hadn't expected. It wasn't just Amelia's strength that caught his attention. She was curious, kind-hearted, and wise in a way he didn't expect from someone who looked so intimidating. Even though her towering presence was overwhelming, she had a way of making everything seem less serious, more fun. She had brought a sense of joy into his life that he hadn't known he needed. One afternoon, after spending the day adjusting furniture to fit Amelia's size, Vrakaz found himself sitting across from her at a table he had modified to accommodate both their sizes. He had prepared a meal of Zalaron delicacies, but Amelia looked at the food with a raised eyebrow. "Are you sure this is edible?" she asked, pointing to a brightly colored dish with tentacles wriggling in the sauce. Vrakaz chuckled nervously. "I hope so. It's a traditional dish from my home planet. It's quite popular." Amelia gave him a teasing smile. "Well, I'm adventurous. I'll try anything once." She dug in, and after a moment, her face lit up in surprise. "This isn't bad. It's different, but not bad at all." Vrakaz watched her, a smile tugging at his lips. Despite her enormous size, she had the ability to make him feel at ease. He had expected her to be a stranger, someone he couldn't relate to. But here they were, enjoying a meal together. She had become more than just a mistake or an unexpected guest. Amelia had become a part of his life. Later that evening, after the meal, Amelia suggested that they try something new. I think it's time I teach you something, she said, getting up from the table and stretching her long limbs. You've been teaching me about Zalaran culture, but I want to show you some of Earth's ways. Rakas raised an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? Amelia grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. How about combat training? Rakas blinked. Combat. Amelia's grin widened. Yes, combat. On Earth, many people practice different forms of fighting to keep themselves fit and to protect others. It's not all about strength. It's about using your mind and your body in ways that are efficient. Rakas was taken aback. He had always been taught that Zalaran's strength was the most important factor in life. But Amelia's suggestion intrigued him. Despite her towering size, she had never come across as a brute. She was skilled, controlled, and graceful in ways that he could hardly imagine. Her confidence was contagious. All right, Rakas said, standing up with determination. Show me what you mean. Amelia led him to an open area near the house, a small clearing surrounded by trees. She had already begun stretching, and Rakas followed her example, trying to loosen his limbs. Double quotes. First, let's start with some basic moves, she said, giving him a quick overview of the techniques she would teach. The most important thing is not to be afraid of your own power. You have more strength in you than you realize. Rakas nodded, trying to keep his focus. He had spent most of his life using brute force, but Amelia's calm demeanor made him want to learn a different approach. She demonstrated a series of quick movements, sweeping motions, powerful stances, and controlled strikes. She moved with a fluidity that left Rakas in awe as they practiced. Rakas began to realize just how different their worlds were. Amelia had been trained for combat in a way that was elegant, not aggressive. Her movements were sharp and deliberate, calculated to outthink and outmaneuver an opponent rather than overpower them. They spent hours working together. Slowly, Rakas' skills began to improve. At first, he had stumbled and felt awkward. But as he grew more comfortable with Amelia's guidance, he started to feel more confident. His movements became sharper, more precise. He could see the power in his own body, and for the first time, he felt like he was becoming more than just the quiet, isolated alien he had always been. Later, as they took a break, sitting on the grass beneath the stars, Rakas looked at Amelia with newfound respect. I never thought I'd learn so much from someone like you. You're incredible, Amelia smiled softly. You're pretty incredible yourself, Rakas. You just need to believe it. The air was cool, and the stars above them twinkled brightly. Rakas looked up at the sky, lost in thought. He had never imagined his life turning out like this. He had come to Earth to find love, but instead, he had found a teacher, a friend, someone who accepted him despite all his insecurities. But even as they spent more time together, Rakas couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. The more he trained and the more he grew to care for Amelia, the more he realized how different they truly were. Her size, her strength, it was overwhelming. He couldn't ignore the fact that she was constantly a giant among everyone else. She didn't fit in anywhere, and Rakas had to admit there was a part of him that felt unworthy of her. He was smaller, weaker, and not nearly as powerful as Amelia. She could take care of herself, and yet she chose to stay by his side. He was grateful, but at the same time, he felt insecure. What if she grew tired of being around someone so small and weak? What if she wanted someone who could match her strength? Someone who could be her equal? Rakas couldn't stop these thoughts from swirling in his mind. He found himself doubting everything he had come to believe about their relationship. What if their differences were too great? What if they were better off parting ways? The next day, as they trained again, Rakas grew quieter. Amelia noticed the shift in his mood but didn't say anything at first. She respected his space, knowing that sometimes people needed time to process their feelings. But after a long while, she couldn't ignore the tension. Rakas, she said, stopping their training session. What's bothering you? Rakas hesitated, unsure whether to voice his concerns. But he knew he couldn't hide it any longer. I'm just not sure I'm the right person for you. You're so powerful, and I'm just small. I can't match your strength. I don't know if I'm good enough for you. Amelia looked at him with understanding in her eyes. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder, careful not to overwhelm him with her sighs. Vrakas, it's not about being the strongest or the biggest. It's about being there for each other. I don't need someone who's as strong as me. I need someone who understands me, who cares for me. And you've done that since the moment I arrived. Vrakas looked at her, his heart heavy. But Amelia smiled warmly, cutting him off. Stop. You're more than enough. You have strength in you that you don't even realize yet. You don't need to be bigger or stronger to be worthy of my time and my affection. Vrakas felt a wave of relief wash over him. Maybe he didn't need to be as strong as Amelia. Maybe he just needed to be himself. As they continued their training, Vrakas felt a newfound sense of confidence. He wasn't as big as Amelia, but that didn't matter. What mattered was their connection. What mattered was that they cared for each other. And with that, Vrakas realized that no matter how different they were, they had something special, a bond that no size or strength could break. As the days passed, things began to settle into a routine for Vrakas and Amelia. The initial awkwardness had faded. They now spent most of their time together, training, talking, and learning from each other. They had both changed in ways they hadn't expected, and the bond between them had grown stronger with each passing day. Vrakas had become more confident in himself. Thanks to Amelia's patient training, he had learned not just about combat, but also about using his mind and his instincts. He no longer felt like the weak alien who had always been out of place. He had learned to trust himself, to trust his abilities, and to accept his own strengths. Amelia had shown him that it wasn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about being true to who you were. Amelia, on the other hand, had found something she hadn't realized she was missing. Her life on Earth had always been difficult. Her immense size had set her apart from everyone else. She had often felt like a giant among her own people, an outcast in a world that wasn't built for someone like her. But here, on Zalara, she had found someone who didn't see her as a threat, someone who accepted her just as she was. Vrakas had never been intimidated by her size or strength. He saw her for the person she was. Not for what she could do, but despite the peace they had found in each other's company. Things were not as calm as they seemed. As much as they had become close, there was still a part of Vrakas that worried about the future. The more he thought about their situation, the more he realized that their relationship might not be as simple as he hoped. Zalaran society was strict. Their values were based on strength, power, and tradition. There were still many who would never accept a human, especially one as powerful as Amelia, living among them. Vrakas had heard rumors of people questioning his decision to spend so much time with her. The leaders of his planet might see Amelia as a threat, and even if they didn't, would they ever truly accept her? One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, Vrakas' thoughts turned to the future. Amelia was showing him some advanced combat moves when he suddenly stopped. The weight of the world seemed to press on him, and he looked at her with uncertainty. "Amelia," he said quietly, "what if? What if we can't stay here? What if the leaders of my world decide that it's not safe for you to be here?" Amelia paused, sensing the shift in his mood. She looked at him with concern, but didn't say anything right away. She could see that Vrakas was struggling with something. She wanted to give him space to express his feelings. "I've been thinking a lot about it," Vrakas continued. "Zalarans don't accept weakness. And you're not weak. But you're human, and that's something they don't understand. I don't know if they'll ever accept you here. And I don't want you to be in danger because of me." Amelia sat down beside him, her expression soft and understanding. "Vrakas, I knew this wasn't going to be easy. I came here knowing there would be challenges. But I'm not afraid of those challenges. And neither are you." But Vrakas began, but she gently placed a finger on his lips, silencing him. "I know you care about me, and I care about you too. That's what matters. I don't need anyone else to accept me if I have you by my side," Amelia said firmly. "But I also don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. We're in this together. We'll face whatever comes next, together." Vrakas felt a warmth spread through him at her words. He realized how much she meant to him. Amelia wasn't just a giant woman from Earth. She was his friend, his equal, and someone he could rely on. Her strength wasn't just physical, it was emotional, mental, and spiritual. And that strength had become his anchor. "I don't know what the future holds," Vraka said, his voice soft. "But I know that I don't want to lose you." Amelia smiled, her hand gently resting on his. "You won't lose me. I promise." That night, as they sat beneath the stars, Vraka and Amelia talked long into the night. They shared their hopes and dreams, their fears, and their deepest desires. They spoke of Earth and Zalara, of the differences between their worlds, but also of the things they had in common. They laughed, they cried, and they held each other close, knowing that no matter what happened, they had each other. But just as their connection deepened, a storm was brewing. News began to spread across Zalara that a group of influential leaders were planning to take action against Amelia. They saw her as a symbol of weakness, a threat to the way things had always been. They argued that humans had no place on their planet, especially one as large and powerful as Amelia. Whispers of rebellion began to grow louder, and it wasn't long before Rakaz found himself in the middle of a dangerous political storm. The leaders demanded that Amelia leave Zalara, and if she refused, they would take more drastic measures. Vraka was torn between his loyalty to his people and his loyalty to Amelia. He didn't want to fight against his own planet, but he also couldn't stand by and watch Amelia be sent away. The love he had for her was too strong, and the thought of losing her was unbearable. One day, as Vraka and Amelia stood together in the middle of the city, a group of Zelarin officials approached them. The leader of the group, a tall, imposing figure named Zorak, stepped forward. "You've caused enough trouble, Vraka," Zorak said, his voice cold and commanding. "Your relationship with this human is a threat to our entire way of life. We demand that she leave Zalara at once." Amelia stood tall, her eyes steady and unflinching. "I'm not leaving," she said firmly. "I'm not a threat to anyone. I've learned more here than I ever thought possible, and I care about Vraka. That's all that matters." Zorak sneered. "You are nothing but a symbol of weakness. Zalarans do not need humans here, especially not one so powerful. If you do not leave, we will be forced to act." Vraka stepped forward, his heart pounding. "You're wrong, Zorak. Amelia is not a threat. She's more than what you see. She's strong, but she's also kind. She's shown me a new way of thinking, a way of living that isn't based on strength alone, and I will not let you send her away." The crowd around them began to murmur. Some Zelarans were hesitant, unsure of what to believe. But others stood with Zorak, their faces hard with anger and fear. Amelia's voice rang out, steady and unshaken. "I'm not going anywhere, and neither is Vraka's. If we are to be together, then we will do so on our terms, not yours." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a surprising thing happened. One by one, the Zalarans in the crowd began to step forward, their faces softening. They looked at Vraka and Amelia, seeing something they hadn't before: unity, strength, and a shared bond that went beyond appearances. Zorak's expression hardened, but he saw that his influence was waning. The tide was turning. Slowly, the pressure on Amelia began to lift, and in that moment, Vraka realized that their love was stronger than the fears of those around them. The leaders reluctantly agreed to allow Amelia to stay, recognizing that her presence on Zalara was not a threat, but a bridge between two worlds. Vraka and Amelia had proven that love could cross boundaries, challenge traditions, and bring about change. As they stood together, the weight of the world finally lifted from their shoulders. Vraka looked at Amelia with pride and love. "We did it," he said, his voice full of emotion. Amelia smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "Together, we always will." And so, Vraka and Amelia began a new chapter in their lives, one where love, acceptance, and understanding triumphed over fear and division. They had proven that no matter how different they were, they could stand together and change the world.